And now I'd like to welcome to the Sports Credential Podcast, Mrs. Liz Allison, the Executive Vice President of the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. I always mess that up. Even last time with Jason, I'm like, the Music City Big Machine Music City, but
Yeah, right.
Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Third year in a row. Both years awesome. Going into another third awesome year. Like so many people, I'm super excited, and I'm so happy that you can join me and talk about it, because I know you and your team are incredibly busy with just 2 weeks away, really, from
Yeah.
the race weekend.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy busy, but thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And we listen, every chance we have, we want to take it to talk about our amazing event. And 2 weeks out, we are running around with our hair on fire right now. It feels like we were laughing, saying that all of us are like we're waking up in the middle of the night thinking of all the things that we need to do, or things that come to our mind in the middle of the night. And so I have a little notepad that I keep beside my bed, so when I wake up in the middle of the night right now, I can write something down so I can try to get a few extra minutes of sleep. But we're ready. We're going to be in just a great form for our third event, which is hard to believe. I've been here. I know you have chatted with Jason recently as well, our president, and he and I both have been here since before our first event. So it's been so much fun to see our event kind of grow up, if you will, just kind of grow into what it is today. And year one was such a fun experience for us. Of course, that was one of the first big events coming out of COVID. So there was a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, people kind of breaking out for the first time, in quite some time. And so we had a lot of things that took place in year one that we were really proud of, and then some things that we thought, we can probably do better with that. And so then year two, rolling into year two, we were able to enhance those experiences that we felt like we wanted to make a little better, make some tweaks. So now going into year three, for me, I oversee all of our premium hospitality. This is such a fun year for me because we've been able to really, again, kind of expand on our premium hospitality experience. We have our Club RPM, and we have our East Club, and we have our Turn 9. And it's a lot of fun to be able to take all of our experiences from the first 2 years and make it into what it is now. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, I remember that first year. It was just anything that came out of COVID was like Christmas morning. I remember like when NASCAR was like the first sport to really come back, and like their
Yeah.
ratings were off the charts.
Well,
So
and they never really went away, if you remember. And that's what was so interesting about NASCAR and the way they handled it, is that, the fans weren't able to go into the stand. So it was really interesting watching the race, because you never, at least for me, because I've been in NASCAR for so long, the fans are important, but you don't realize how important the fans are to the broadcast. And then to
absolutely.
not have fans in the stands for the broadcast, it was quite different to watch, but it was fun to be able to have something to watch nonetheless.
Yes, so everything that came out of that, like 6 months after the COVID craziness, was just unbelievable. And having an event like the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, just unbelievably just new to Nashville. There hasn't really been an event like that. And to come out of COVID, I just think kind of helped carry the wins of the event to make it growing into kind of like a staple of, the city. Like I know tons of people there, just like they renew their tickets every year now. It's just kind of part of their summer experience now. And
Yes, I mean, absolutely. And that was, again, it was a fun time to come to really roll into our first event coming out of COVID. And it was a fun time to be a part of year one, when everybody was so excited to get out and do something, and get out in the, and to take part in live sports again, and live events. But again, like you said, we have our loyal folks that come back every year, and we're so excited about that. And every year we have first time event goers that come in, and then they're hooked after they get here. And that's what I tell people all the time, just about motorsports generally speaking, because I did come from the NASCAR world and I was there for so long, is that for me, for people to really take note and really get engaged in motorsports, like, you have to go in person. It's one of those sports that if you've been to a live event, you can watch racing on television, and you can enjoy it. And I'm not saying that people can't enjoy it that've never been to a live race, but to me it just enhances that experience, because if you've not been, you don't understand the sights the smell, the sound, the vibration. But when you're there in person, then you're able to experience all that. And it is just completely different than watching it on television.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's the only sport that is just significantly different. It's the only
Yeah, it
sport where
is.
if you don't have
Yeah.
a live experience, you're not going to enjoy it. I always think football's better on TV and than in person, but
Yeah.
there's some sports that are like that. But NASCAR, IndyCar, any type of motorsport is always better
Yeah.
in person.
That is so true because and really the cars look like they're going so slow when you watch them on television. And that's the other thing that I think people really have to, when I say feel it and see it and smell it, like you have to see those cars flying by. I had some friends that came to our race last year. They'd never been to a live a motorsports event before, and she was talking about trying to take a picture, and she had her phone all ready to go, and she was like couldn't get a picture, because they were going so fast. And and that's something you can't grasp that when you're watching it on television. So yeah, it's definitely a sport that you want to come and you want to be in person and experience it in person.
That's yeah, it's the best. But so, like you said, you worked in NASCAR. You've been working in motorsports for such a long time. Give us a little bit of a background of kind of like your career working in NASCAR and working a little bit in media, and now here working for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix.
Yeah, so I came into motorsports a little different, I guess, than what might be your traditional track if you're in motorsports media. I was married to Davey Allison's NASCAR, um, late the late Davey Allison, I should say, which is still hard for me to say, NASCAR Hall of Famer. And I was married to him, and we had an amazing life in the sport, two little kids that were growing up in the sport. I was already writing at the time. That was just, part of my love for writing, and had studied, had done a lot of studying with journalism in college and so on and so forth. So when I married Davey and I came into the sport, I continued that. And so I was writing for a couple of different publications, and I was writing for his fan club and doing some different things at the time, just kind of keeping my feet wet, if you will, and in the sport, and keeping my hand in the sport and in writing. And then when we lost Davy in 1993, we had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I was I obviously had my hands full with life and where we were in life. And so I took about 5 years away from the sport, away from everything, and just really focused on trying to raise our kids, in the midst of heartache and such just profound loss. So for us during that time, it was just focus on family, and I wasn't doing any writing, wasn't doing anything from a professional standpoint. And then I went back in 1998, back into NASCAR, at the urging of Bill France Jr., who was then the president of NASCAR. His father, Bill France Sr., was the founder of NASCAR. Had a special relationship with him. He was a really dear friend. He was much like a father figure to me. And so it was of his urging for me to come back into the sport. And so I started working in the sport again, writing, and then got back on the really not back into the media side, because I wasn't on the media side before. I was a wife in the sport, but doing a lot of writing. So at that point in 1998, I shifted gears, if you will, and then went to the media side of things and started writing. Then I became a pit reporter for TNT and NBC, and just had a great career as far as that was concerned, and learned a lot. And it was such fun. The group that I worked with, Benny Parsons, and just so many greats. And so that was a great experience, and a good learning time and curve for me. And then I started working in premium hospitality, and did that for many, many years with NASCAR, and continued my writing, and started in radio, and I've been doing radio for a long time. And so that's kind of where it all started, I guess you would say. And then I guess to kind of land this plane, if you will, when COVID hit, I was still working in NASCAR and for NASCAR, and with all of the VIP and premium hospitalities experiences, and traveling around. And so when everything stopped, because that's one of the things that stopped, obviously, was no more hospitality, and all of us were at home. Even though the races were still taking place, we were at home. And Matt Cruz, our founder and CEO, had been a friend, had known him for many years. And so this experience, or this opportunity, I should say, for the experience here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix became available. And so I accepted the position at that time. And the funny thing is, I'll tell you, I thought it was going to be temporary. I thought that I would go back to work for NASCAR as soon as everything opened back up. And it was just one of those things that I became so passionate and so just involved and in the trenches with this event. I'm a writer. I've had, as I've mentioned, I've had some published books, and I've often told people what I love about writing books is that you start with an idea, and then you get to be a part of the whole process, and you see the finished result, which is a book. And to me, this is much like what our event is. There was this idea that was already in place when I came along, and then I got to be a part of all of the planning and the creating, and then you get to see the finished result, and it's so rewarding. So once NASCAR opened back up and the world opened back up, I decided to stay, and so I'm still here. I know this is where I'm supposed to be, and I love every day. I feel like I want to kick my heels together, and just because I'm so excited to come to work every day, I feel very blessed.
That's wonderful. Yeah, your career, just kind of looking at everything you've done, it's been like, wow, you can't believe someone could do so much stuff and just be kind of everywhere. And being, at such a awesome event like the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Talk to me about that first year, dealing with COVID, and also kind of trying to work with ticket sales and creating something from kind of nothing. I mean, I don't think anyone except for, maybe Matt Cruz and a couple of those guys really thought of a track going through downtown Nashville around Nissan Stadium over that bridge. Talk to
Yeah.
me about that first year kind of building the event we know today.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'll tell you, even the first time that I had the conversation with Matt, I was like, no, you want to do what?" So it was even me, who's, I'm one of the biggest motorheads there is, and I couldn't quite grasp what it was that he was trying to color for me, if you will. I'm like, I need to see the whole picture here. I'm not seeing it. So basically, it was, as I said, it started, with our founder and CEO and Matt Cruz, and there were a few other people early on that were a part of his kind of planning and creating this idea, if you will, this event. And it did change courses a couple of times of what it would be and what the track would look like, and then let's not forget all the approvals and all of the just from a political sense and community sense of what would have to take place to make something of this magnitude take place, and something of this nature to even be able to be a reasonable request for all the everybody in the city that takes part in it, and all the city workers and all the first responders, and there's the mayor's office, and I mean, it's just endless of how many people had to be involved with something of this magnitude. And so once that was all kind of rolling, and Tony Cotman was brought on, and he's our track designer, and once he was brought in and really started honing in on what this would be, then it was, all right, let's get down to business, and let's look at what are these tickets, what are the viewing opportunities, and now we know how the course will be built. So how do we serve up hospitality like Nashville knows how to do best? So there was many, as we know, months of planning, and just yes, that'll work, no, that won't work, and there was so much of that. I mean, we're a 3-day event, but we have a year-round team. We're in here year-round, just like everybody else. We're here Monday through Friday in the off season working because we have that much to do. And then when we get to our busy season, then we're working whatever hours it takes to get the work done. So, but the first year, it was very exciting. It was scary. It was exciting. It was fun. It was scary and mind blowing, and all those things that you can imagine. Everything that you can even think of to describe year one is what it was. But I can tell you, at the end of the day, it was one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done professionally. I've often said, and I stand by this even today after being here for the time that I have now, is that I've never worked as hard on anything professionally, and I've never been a part of anything professionally that's this rewarding. Our team works really hard, and it takes a lot to make this event happen. We don't just show up on Friday morning and the streets are closed and the races take place. It takes a lot of planning and a lot of really talented people and a lot of cooperation from a lot of people. So, I'm just a small part of that as is everybody else here on our team. We all together are mighty, but it takes a lot of us to get it done.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I hear that from everyone I've talked to on your team. Everyone's like, it's a team effort, because
Yes.
it's just a year-round kind of organizing this thing, taking 12
Mhm.
months, if not longer, and all that stuff. So what does your preparation, what does your non-race weekend look like throughout the year planning? That's what I'm really interested, because there's so much that goes into it, but just someone on the outside, I mean, it might be like, well, what are they doing for so
What are
long?
you doing? Like, what do you
Yeah.
do? I laugh because my family's same thing. They're like, what are y'all doing all the time? I mean, if you think about it, like all of these, and because you've been to the event, so you can visualize it. But for those who haven't, until you really ride down and see what we're talking about, like, or if you haven't been in the business of creating and building all of these temporary structures, like you really don't understand, just because of not having that experience of how long it takes to plan and to build and to create hospitalities and partnerships and sponsorships and sell them and client services. And there's a lot of different angles that we come from. But for us, because we're not a permanent venue, because we are building our venue, if you will, we're building our course. We have to work through, as I've already mentioned, is that we have to work through with all of our city partners and all of our state partners in regard to road closings. And there's a lot of different permits, and all of that stuff takes time. So that's one piece of it. Operations has a big bite of all of it, because they're planning and just because when we get to August 7th this year, we're already having to plan for next year, because then it's, how long do the permits take, and getting those permits in, and what changes are we going to make, and what roads are blocked, and so on and so forth. And then also from a hospitality side, it's what vendors are we going to use? Are we going to use the same vendors for our structures? What changes are we going to make to the structures? What are those ticket prices going to be? Who are our vendors going to be? How do we set the budgets for these? What are our ticket prices going to be? How many tickets are we going to sell? When do we put those tickets on sale? I mean, it's all of those things that you have to do. Any type of event has to do that, obviously. But for us, there's that extra layer, because we are a temporary track, if you will, a temporary when we're creating a venue of sorts. Then it takes a lot more planning, and it takes a lot more people and a lot more advanced planning than what you would typically have. So that's some of what we do. I mean, we have a lot of we're sales meeting, because we have a lot of sales meetings. We have a lot of creative meetings in regard to how can we make what we're doing better. Even though we are year round, we have 10 to 12 year round staffers. Because of that, we have to wear a lot of different hats. So what might typically be one, maybe you're in sales. For us, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. You might be selling, you might be like me, I do a little bit of everything. So that's just how it works for us, because we don't have a 30-person year-round team. We use a lot of we hire a lot of folks that are coming in as seasonal workers, and that are also as event workers, and a lot of volunteers, in fact. So that's a little glimpse of what happens year round, and it's always busy. It's crazy. It's always busy.
One thing I'm curious about is the hospitality area of it. I mean, I remember last year walking around. This was kind of my first year being able to really just kind of walk around, and seeing the food trucks and seeing the big sponsors and the tables set up for different areas of people's interests, kind of like touching on everyone's different palette. Um, Being in Nashville, it's so hot and there's always events going on. Do you find it difficult or easy finding vendors? Because do you feel that, or different
No,
hospitality aspects? Because I feel like
yeah.
it's too hot and it's hard to get people, or it's too expensive and the asking price is too high, or is it just because there's so much you can just get as much as you want?
Yeah, I mean, Nashville, like we are an event city. I mean, so there's no doubt there's always something going on. For us, I mean, we have a lot of participation from local vendors that want to be a part of our event. We're certainly not at a loss for people wanting to be a part of it. We are unique in a sense that there's a lot of events in Nashville all the time, but we're the only one that races through the streets of Nashville. So, because of that, there's a lot of people that obviously are very interested and want to be a part of it. It's an exciting event. It's different. We do have music. We have 30 artists that are performing on multiple stages for us this year. So we have that music element. We certainly would not be a festival without it in Nashville because music is such a big part of the Nashville groove. So we certainly have that. And as you mentioned, food is as well. So no loss for vendors there. Our vendors that we have as far as our structures are concerned, we start bidding those out. Like we actually start that like a month after our event ends. So we're already into that grind. As soon as we end our race, we're making notes, changes, we're recapping and really looking at how we can again enhance. Every year we want to get better. We want to have a better experience for those than the year before. So we don't ever stop and say we've got it all right, because if we do that, then we're going to be a step behind. So we always have to be better the next year than we were the year before. And so we're already, jumping on that as soon as we catch our breath after our race, we're already into planning.
That's crazy to think about all that preparation. I mean,
yes.
And from what you look at when you go to the last couple of races, it goes so smoothly. I do have to say, it goes everything. There's not a whole lot of like, why didn't they think of that? Why didn't they think of that? It really is a great festival, a really great event. And I know you guys did a lot of work going into this third year. The early race on Sunday to beat the heat, the late race for the
on Saturday,
America. Yep. Talk to me about figuring out that with the team, about changing some of the races, moving some of the concerts to make it the best fan-friendly type of event, especially when you're dealing with the heat in Nashville. I mean, August is like the worst month in this city.
It is absolutely. I mean, that's just again, it's how can we enhance that experience for our guests, and that's something that we continue to look at. And honestly, it doesn't stop when we get to race day. If when it's Friday of race weekend, then we're already looking at, is there something we can do that we can help Saturday? What can we do to help Sunday? We have our meetings every morning. We have our early morning meetings where we're recapping the day before, and we're looking at how can we make today better than the day before. So we continue that whole mindset as we go through race weekend. For us, it's when we look at how could we make this year better. One of the biggest things you mentioned, it's hot in the summertime. Period. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. But certainly August is one of the hottest months, and early August is it can be stifling. It's so hot. And so we know that, and we want to make everybody as comfortable as we can. So this year we have a great cooling sponsor with Ferguson, and we have cooling centers that are around. We have shade tents, and we have fans, and we have lots of water that we have for our guests that are attending so that they can get out of the heat. This year we've added a family fun zone, which is new for us this year. We're super excited about that. We have a shade tent area there. We have TVs in there so parents can watch while their kids are playing in the family fun zone. That was something that we learned from year 1 and year 2, that Nashville, people like to take their kids. And we wanted to have something that was a little bit better. We'd not had a family fun zone before. So we wanted to have inflatables. We have a Ferris wheel. We have mini Grand Prix racing. We have all kinds of fun things for the kids. We have a food truck that's specially there just for kids, with kid-friendly food. And we have snow cones in there. So, we're trying to be very specific about what we're doing and how we can enhance that. So we know we need shade tents. We know we need an earlier start time. So we went to the city and said, hey, we need this. And we also went, when IndyCar was in the discussions with us, we were able to have those discussions of having an earlier start time. So we were really excited to have that as well. So those are just, again, some of the conversations that we continue to have in the background of how we can make it the experience better every year for our guests.
That's always exciting to see how you guys adapt and how you guys get better and think of things that would go over my head constantly. But that's why you guys are doing what you're doing, and I'm not doing that.
Well, that's why we need a team, because we need to think of those things, and we rely a lot on our guest feedback as well. We always listen to what our guests have to say, and that matters to us because that's how we can make ourselves better. Every time that we hear something from our guests, and we jot those notes down, and when we're recapping, then we go back and even for our planning this year, as we were getting into the heat of planning, we go back and we look at our recap notes because we know that some of those things we might forget, so we want to note it all, and then we get back into the planning, then we go back and we refer to our notes, and then we correct what we can and change what we need to. And again, we're never settled with saying we did it good enough. We always want to be better.
That's wonderful. And to go back a little bit into your career and looking what you've done, NASCAR and motorsports in the United States has always been a very male dominated kind of industry. It's changed so much over the last couple of years. It's wild to see how motorsports, and especially something like NASCAR, has grown so much to be inclusive and all different walks of life getting involved in the motorsport. What has your experience been kind of being a woman in NASCAR, especially a woman at your position working in motorsports?
Well, it's funny because I'll tell you, my mother-in-law, my uh, Davey's mom, Judy Allison, when she started in the sport, women were not even allowed in the pits in the garage. So it's so
Wow.
funny to think about women like Linda Petty, who was Richard Petty's wife, and I mentioned Judy Allison, and many women of that era. They would climb over the fence and they would sneak into the paddock area, into the pit area. So just you think about how far we've come with women in motorsports. But when I came into the sport, there weren't any women that were broadcasters. There were no women that were covering the sport. When I started as a pit reporter, it was me for NBC and TNT, and it was Jeannie Zelasco for Fox. And it was so funny because it was at the time we were starting to see female sideline reporters. I remember Jill Arrington was one of the first ones that I could remember that we were starting to see on the sidelines, that they were um, very professional what they were doing, and certainly well groomed and knew the sport. And so then we started seeing that coming into NASCAR, and I was privileged to be one of those folks that got to be one of the first women doing that. But it was interesting, they did not want us, or didn't want me, I should say, at the time, to call pit stops. They didn't feel like it was convincing enough. I was doing all of the storylines, and I would handle anybody that went into the emergency, into the care center. Then I would interview them exiting the care center, and I would look for all types of storylines and vignettes to cover. But it wasn't at any time that they were comfortable with me calling pit stops, which is so funny because now, we don't even think twice about it. We have females out there that are calling pit stops, and it's no different than having a male do it than a female. So that's one of the major changes that I would say. I mean, there have been women, and as far as riders are concerned, motorsports riders that have been around for a long time. And so that's not really, it's something as new as what we would think. But it's definitely has changed. And now, as far as like PR reps are concerned for the drivers, you hardly see any males in that professional spot at all. It's all females. So it's really interesting how that has changed as well. So there's a lot of women in motorsports. In fact, for us, for race weekend, we have I believe it's Friday of race weekend, we have a photo op that we're going to have in our victory lane, where it brings all of the women in motorsports together for a photo op at our race. And this is something that's been taking place all year at different motorsports events. And so we're going to have one as well. So that basically brings all the women that are at our track with all the different series of racing that we have, whatever professional place they may have on the race team, whether it's a PR rep, whether it's a team manager, pit crew member, whatever it may be, then a car owner, whatever it may be, we invite all of them into victory lane on Friday to take a women in motorsports photo. And it's crazy how many women show up that are in the photo. So that really shows you how the sport has opened up to women, and we're really proud of that.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. I remember covering the Ally 400 just last month, and yeah, like you said, it seems like it's more diverse than what anyone would think,
Yeah,
especially from the outside.
absolutely.
It's awesome, and it's such like an American sport, and everyone's involved. and that goes for motorsports across the board. So to cap off this interview, once again, thank you so much for taking the time.
Of course. No, thank you.
What are you most excited for this specific upcoming event?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, I don't know if it's that I'm the most excited about, but what I anticipate the most, like I just want people to have a good time. That's, I think, if there's the pressure that I put on myself and certainly our team, is that we want people to have a good time. We want them to feel like their time is well spent and the money they spent on their ticket was worth every penny of it, and that they come and they have a good time and they feel well taken care of. To me, that's what I get excited about. I get excited about seeing people smiling and having a good time. And I think really, if I break it down, maybe the family fun zone, just because I'm excited for people to come out and see what this festival is all about, what this event is about, and bring their kids. My kids grew up in the sport for obvious reasons, but I know when you can get kids to the racetrack and they can see it, again, see it, feel it, hear it, the vibrations, and see the colors of the cars, and see the drivers walking around, and realize that those are real people that are driving the cars. Like, those kids, they get hooked. And when they get hooked, then you've got a fan. And that's how the motorsports continues to grow. And it's not about IndyCar, it's not about NASCAR, it's not about Formula One, it's about motorsports. And it's about keeping motorsports alive and growing and healthy. And if Formula One's doing well, then NASCAR's doing well. NASCAR's doing well, Formula One and IndyCar is doing well. All of the momentum that each one of the series brings to motorsports, it helps the other series. And I know that we all feel the same about that. And our president of IndyCar, Jay Fry, he came from the NASCAR world. So there's a lot of overflow, if you will. And we're, at the end of the day, we love sports, we love competition, and we love motorsports, and we're just proud to be a part of it. And as I said, I feel blessed every day to be a part of it.
That's wonderful. And yeah, there's nothing quite like motorsports. And like you said, I've seen like a boom over the last couple of years. Formula One's on the upside, and along with it is NASCAR. Their ratings, their ticket sales are going up, and same with IndyCar. Their TV ratings are going up, and I know this race, Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, is always one of the big ones to watch out for. And every driver I've talked to, they're scared of the track, but they're excited for it every year. And it's really become an awesome event. And I'm super excited. I can't believe it's just 2 weeks away.
I know. We can't either, but we'll be ready. We're almost ready, but we'll especially be ready when we get to next week.
Awesome. Once again, Liz, Allison, thank you so much for joining me. I'm, like I said, I'll say 1,000 times, I'm super excited for in 2 weeks, and it should be an awesome one. And hopefully the Nashville native, Joseph Newgarden, will carry on this streak he's doing right now.
Listen, he might. He definitely is. He's on the roll, right? He's making us look really good.
Absolutely. Liz, thank you so much for joining me.
We appreciate it.